Over the next 3 weeks, my sister and I will be road tripping the South Island of New Zealand.
I think this is New Zealand's South Island in a nutshell.
For both of us, it's going to be the third time visiting this incredibly beautiful country, going to places we had never been before.
And now we're on our way to the Nugget Point, and we both have been to Nugget Point.
And also revisiting some all-time greats.
And here we are. This is the Milford Sound.
And while I know the country of the long white cloud better than my home country by now, I'm still incredibly excited and ready to be astonished by its utter beauty.
Look around this. It's just perfect.
So let's dive right in and road trip the South Island of New Zealand.
That over there, that's Franz Josef Glacier. Look at this. This is so good.
After a whopping 30 hours travel time, we finally touched down in Christchurch. We had about 3 days in the city, most of which we spent on finding a suitable car to buy for our road trip. So we didn't do much sightseeing in those days. We did, however, check out the iconic cardboard cathedral, which was erected after the massive 2011 earthquake that destroyed big parts of the city.
Yeah, so the old Christchurch Cathedral got damaged in 2011, and then they built this one.
Up on layer around a spindle which is 600 mil. When we have a thickness of 9 mil, 12 layers of this, we take it off and we'll turn this into that which is up there. Proof that we're not just good at rugby. So once the tubes are finished, we put 3 coats of polyurethane on them to make them resistant to moisture, not rain, condensation, so we're hands-on. The building is made permanent because the tubes are reinforced inside with this laminated veneered lumber. Fast-growing pine, it's radiata pine. From planting to chopping down is only 26 years, and our fault line runs through the mountains. In fact, that's why the mountains are there, because of the fault line. So anywhere in New Zealand we can get earthquakes. So this building is built to mitigate against that.
And then, after a rather hectic search for a suitable car for our road trip, we eventually settled on this fancy red Toyota Wish. And once we had paid for it and changed the rego, it was time to hit the road and explore New Zealand. Welcome back to New Zealand. We drove south about 2.5 hours, almost to Oamaru, to a little town that's called Waimate, and stayed here on a little campground, beautiful campground. Also this thing behind me looks like a velodrome where they do like bike racing, but I'm not sure. But anyways, so first stop is gonna be Oamaru, which is this beautiful little fishing slash shipping harbor town that is just down the road, about 40 minutes from here. And Oamaru has a beautiful little kind of old town, which is well preserved, but also Oamaru is special for one more thing, and that is little blue New Zealand penguins. The smallest penguins in the world, the only nocturnal land penguins in the world as well. And we've seen them already yesterday, because we got to this place yesterday late night and then just set up the tent and then went to Oamaru. So let's put some pictures in from yesterday night. Standing just 30 centimeters tall, New Zealand's little blues are the world's smallest and some of the rarest penguins in the world. Visiting Oamaru at night is quite possibly the best chance for you to get close to these adorable little seabirds. Alright, that was the little blue penguins, absolutely cute, cuteness overload. They're so fun to watch, and also because they're so used to humans. Come really close and they're not too spooked as long as you don't like flashlight them with like a very bright light and stuff like that. They're actually quite chill. So that was last night, so let's head over again to Oamaru now to explore the little town, see the old town, maybe have a coffee there and just see what it offers before we pass on to the next landmark that's on the list, but I'm going to tell you about that later. Known for its well-preserved Victorian architecture and historic wharf district, Oamaru has one of the largest number of Victorian-style stone buildings in New Zealand. Once a major port in the 19th century, the town has since become a hub for heritage conservation, local art and an ever-growing steampunk culture.
Gotta support the locals, also includes breweries, and since it's always 4 o'clock somewhere in the world, cheers!
We had a quick look at the Oamaru Botanic Garden, which was surprisingly big for a town that small, before heading down to the Moeraki boulders. Being constantly featured in New Zealand's postcards, these mysterious boulders formed over 60 million years ago through a natural process called concretion, where minerals gradually build up around a core. Some are up to 2 meters wide and weigh several tons. We both had visited Moeraki boulders before and were quite surprised by the amount of tourism infrastructure that was built around the boulders ever since. After having spent some time at the Moeraki boulders, we drove further south to the Katiki Point lighthouse. Apart from plenty of seals hanging out around the lighthouse, this area is one of the best places to spot yellow-eyed penguins, who are even rarer than their little blue neighbors from Oamaru. And boy did we get lucky, seeing 2 of them being on their way back from the ocean. Then it was time to travel even further south to the city of Dunedin.
So our first little stroll through Dunedin. Funnily though, we chose Dunedin for New Year's because we both had in mind that Dunedin was pretty beautiful. And coming here yesterday, we drove through the city to the hostel and we were like, doesn't look as beautiful as in our memory. So let's find out if that was a bit of a mistake or if we can find some beautiful places in Dunedin. I mean, there's sure some really cool buildings that you want to see, like the railway station, which is like Victorian style built, which is also the first thing we're going to check out in just a couple of minutes because it's pretty much just walking distance. But yeah, this is going to be an interesting little stroll through the city and trying to find the good parts of Dunedin.
Built with white Oamaru limestone and black basalt, the Dunedin railway station, other than what I said earlier, was built in a Flemish Renaissance style and opened in 1906. Nowadays it also hosts a restaurant and art galleries.
Next thing on the list is the Dunedin Octagon, which is like Dunedin's main square where like a lot of the things are happening, loads of bars around and stuff like that.
We kept on exploring some of the city's landmarks, including the Otago Museum.
So we're done with the Otago Museum and it was pretty good. It was pretty big, pretty full. Our heads are pretty full with info now, but really good exhibitions. Actually the one about Polynesia and all the all the different Polynesian tribes and stuff, that was probably the biggest, most comprehensive I've seen, even bigger than the one in Adelaide and in Melbourne, I'm not sure. But our heads are absolutely bursting with info now. I'm just kind of tired, so we came over to the Dunedin Botanic Garden, which apparently is the oldest one in New Zealand, to look at some plants and, I don't know, free up some space in our heads now.
Later that night, it was time for a good but pretty unspectacular New Year's celebration.
It is New Year's Day, first day of 2025, and we're going exploring the Otago Peninsula, looking for some albatrosses. Hope to find some. We don't want to do the tour because that is paid, but there's a couple of spots where you can basically just see them like flying around, and like that's the cool part about it because they're so big. Like that's the majestic part. So let's find some albatrosses. About 40 minutes. Also teamed up with some other people from our hostel, Craig and Florence. Yeah, let's go to Otago Peninsula and find some albatrosses.
The Otago Peninsula houses the only mainland breeding colony of royal albatrosses in the world, and is usually your best shot to see some of those majestic birds with the biggest wingspan in the world. We didn't see any albatrosses that day, so we decided to move on to a nearby beautiful beach to soak some of the views in there.
Yeah. There we go, Baldwin Street. Apparently we're not the only people trying to tackle the steepest street in the world. Of course not.
Yes.
Good morning. It's another day in New Zealand, actually a sunny morning, which is great because we just entered the Catlins, which is pretty much the most southeastern tip of the west coast in New Zealand, and it's not really known for having the greatest weather ever. And now we're on our way to the first thing that we're going to do today. There's a couple of things, and that is Nugget Point, and we both haven't been to Nugget Point, and it's this kind of land formation thing where you have a bit of a head, and then there's a lighthouse, and then there's little rocky kind of islands, like mini islands looking like nuggets in the water. It's quite busy. Car park is full, but it's good weather, and I think there's not too many days per year that you get good weather at Nugget Point. So we don't complain, and also we don't complain about this insane views. Looks so good. The watercolor is just pristine. So the next thing on the list are the Purakanui Falls, and it's busy again. I didn't expect the Catlins to be that busy because they're certainly not the most touristy part of New Zealand, and they're a bit off the beaten track. But yeah, it's quite busy. Car park's full again. So let's see how the Purakanui Falls actually look like.
While the waterfalls in the Catlins are not the most spectacular ones you'll see when traveling New Zealand, it's really more about taking in the nature along the jungle walks to the falls that make the waterfall sightseeing special in the Catlins.
So they just have temperate rainforest here, and I guess the further south we go, the more it will stay like this or even like kind of increase. We'll find out. Let's just hope the weather stays as is. I mean, now it's kind of cloudy and overcast, which is also what I expected, but I expected we'd have a lot of rain even on the first day probably. And we don't. It's been pretty good today, so fingers crossed that it stays like that. Kia ora, welcome off to the Cathedral Caves, which can only be visited when there's low tide or like low-ish tide.
I should not be able to see you.
Okay.
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 Yeah. If you can see me.
Something's wrong. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Cool. It's nice. I mean, it's a cave, but you can see a lot, which is really cool. Like other than a real cave that doesn't have a big opening and stuff, just the daylight kind of reflects all the light into the cave, so you can see pretty much everything. That looks so cool with like all the moss and stuff hanging off the tree. The way to Koropuku Falls, and we should have this whole trek, which is about 40 minutes return, all to ourselves, because pretty much everyone left the car park when we got here, apart from one family who's behind us, but because they've got a couple of toddlers with them, we should be all good and have it all to ourselves.
Koropuku Falls, nestled away deep in the jungle, were probably my favorite waterfalls that we visited in the Catlins. Big part of that might have been though that we were the only people there. We moved further south to check out the petrified forest at Curio Bay, one of the few places in the world to find pristinely preserved fossilized trees.
So it's probably really hard to put it on the camera, but there's a couple of dolphins in the bay. Sometimes you see their fins coming up.
Leaving the Hector dolphins in Curio Bay behind, we made our way to the ferry over to Stewart Island, which we both hadn't been before, hoping that we'd be able to see some kiwi birds during our 2-day stay. We woke up early next morning to tackle parts of the Rakiura Trek, one of New Zealand's great walks and a multi-day hike if you're prepared and you got your sleeping spots booked along the way. We sadly neither had the time nor the equipment to do all of the Aotearoa trek. It is, however, one of the most promising ways to see kiwis at night, which stroll around the camps along the track.
So one of the good things about Stewart Island really is that there isn't too many tourists around, with like 300 people constantly living here and then just a handful of tourists. You have most of these places pretty much all to yourself. I mean, we're doing the Aotearoa trek, which is the one big multi-day trek that people here do, and yet we've only seen one other pair of hikers. And then on that beach here, which is quite big by the way and pretty beautiful, there is another pair of people there, and that's pretty much it. I mean, there was a car here and there, but if you'd compare this to the Abel Tasman trek, which is this other like multi-day hike thing that you can do in the northern parts of the South Island, you'd be seeing people left, right and center, and you never really have the place to yourself. Here it's very different, so that's quite cool. I don't know if it increases the chances to see any kiwis, but let's hope so. Would be great. Even if not, we saw the yellow-eyed penguins, which is not too bad, and they're also super rare. They're probably much rarer than the kiwis actually. But yeah, would be cool to see some. Anyways, if we don't see them, at least we can enjoy all of this beauty, and we're pretty much the only ones here to enjoy, which is great. Ooh, that is some good views. Lee Bay delivering. Oh, ocean so calm. It really looks like the Abel Tasman. Crazy. So this trek has completely transformed from starting well alongside the street to this now, which really looks like the Abel Tasman but in a temperate rainforest form. So cool. It looks really like Jurassic Park, and then in between you can just like look out on the little coves that are on the way here. This walk's so cool. It just feels like somehow running back in time. You walk through these forests, apart from the stairs and from the walkway. It seems so untouched and so ancient. It's just amazing.
After a quick little break at Port William Hut, it was time for us to turn back for the 13-kilometer return to Oban.
Alright, back to where it all started, just 13 kilometers away, no issue. Yeah, we're doing all the way back now. Should take us about 3.5, 4 hours or something like that. Maybe we're lucky and we see a kiwi on the way back. Also, yeah, sandfly situation here is quite bad. This is where we got the buffs on because, yeah, very serious. Because you just don't want to be bitten by sandflies. They're just so freaking annoying, and their bites, they really hurt. So yeah, you want to cover yourself up as good as possible. Without further ado, let's tackle the way back. 13 kilometers, on we go. It's telephone. Okay, let's see. Yeah. Okay, he's saying, despite my very good connection to nature, no kiwis today. It's very sad. Next morning on Stewart Island, and we're checking out. Well, we checked out of the hostel, and we're going to take the boat in about an hour or so. Third time in New Zealand, still not having seen a kiwi. I haven't even seen one in captivity because I didn't really bother trying to see one. But yeah, I guess that's sometimes how it is. Made it back safely to New Zealand's mainland, and since we're in Bluff, we might as well just pass by Stirling Point, which is pretty much the opposite of the Cape Ranga kind of thing that they have at the Cape Ranga Lighthouse at the most northern point of New Zealand mainland. This is the most southern point in a way. It's not really, because we passed Slope Point, which is the actual most southern point of New Zealand mainland, but here happens to be, well, the big kind of street sign thing where they have the South Pole on and all the other destinations, and give you the miles, how far away it is from here.
Leaving Bluff behind, it was time for us to get back on the road, as there were still plenty of wonders for us to explore in New Zealand.
If you come to New Zealand and if you're planning a trip, don't miss out on Fiordland. It's just gonna blow your mind. Okay, we got ourselves some Berg burgers.